In this video, I'm going to tell you why you've been lied to your whole life when it comes to productivity. And it's not going to be in the way that you've heard it explained before. And you're probably thinking, why should I trust this guy? Well, I'm Thomas, doctor. I've been a doctor for 6 years, and I've actually struggled with productivity multiple times in my life. Where I've been very reactive. I've failed a year in medical school. I've been living in a van, but I was able to transform myself back into proven systems that work for me, and I'm able to teach that to other people as well. So it comes from my own experience, and it comes from the people that I've been working with as well. So let's get started. And as you can see from the title, what we're really going to unpack is what you've been told about productivity already, and why this is incomplete or just flat out wrong. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to talk about specifically is the misconception itself. It sounds right but fails in practice. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to talk about first is the misconception in productivity itself, then why it sounds right but fails in practice, and then the real mechanism behind what makes someone productive, especially a high performer, someone with a lot of responsibility, and then how to structure your work around these principles. And finally, what to actually do with this starting today. So before we get started, if you want to get this training along with the document, you can join the free community in the description, and I'd be very happy to see you there. Otherwise, let's get into it. So the first thing we need to clear up is the lie. So when you think of productivity, you probably think about doing more, managing more tasks, fitting more into your day, optimizing your time, or even stacking your systems on top of systems. And this is what I always thought productivity was, especially growing up in my early 20s, getting through medical school. Being more productive to me felt like I just needed to do more. I needed to work harder, I needed to be busier, but that was never what I realized. On the surface, this sounds reasonable. If you produce more output, you get more results. That's kind of what you think happens. But when you actually look at it and how it plays out, this was never the case. When I was most productive, my days were simpler. They weren't cluttered with lots of different things. I didn't even feel busy. I just felt focused and I felt clear. And the reason this doesn't work is because not all outputs move you forward in the direction you want to be. Some outputs just maintains your current position, and other outputs actually compete with the direction you want to go and pull you backwards or pull you in a different direction. So if most of your time is spent in outputs that don't have a high return on investment, they don't have a high ROI, then you're not going to feel productive, you're not going to feel focused, and it's going to feel kind of scattered in your attention, and you're going in multiple different directions. So you might actually feel extremely busy but not actually make real progress. And if you're being honest with yourself, you've probably felt this before. Days where you did a lot, handled a lot, maybe responded to everything, but in the end of it, nothing meaningful actually moved. You kind of went to bed and you were like, oh, what did I actually do today that makes me closer to my goals? It's kind of a pretty unfulfilling feeling. I felt that a lot of the times. You can be really productive, but you can also be quite reactive, and you actually don't really focus on the important tasks, because if you're honest with yourself, you probably only have one or two really high ROI important tasks, whether that's studying for something, whether that's doing deep work for your business. That's the things you need to protect, and that's the things you need to focus on. The other things can really get in the way. So here's where it gets a bit uncomfortable. A lot of the productivity advice you see online is built for people who don't have real cognitive load yet. So if you're watching this video, you probably have a lot of things on your plate. You probably have a lot of responsibility, a lot of tasks you need to do. So it assumes you have clean time blocks. It assumes you have minimal responsibility and the ability to structure your entire day however you want. But if you're like me, if you're like a high performer, you have multiple goals, you're very ambitious, you want to be really optimized when it comes to energy, your health, your sleep, your business, your relationships. You have a lot on your plate. So I'm talking to a high performer already. It just adds another layer you have to maintain. And that's why a lot of high performers that I work with feel like they're doing everything right but still not getting the outcome they want because they're applying a model that doesn't really match their own reality. So the real question isn't how do I become more productive, but it's actually about how can I limit my outputs right now? How can I focus just on the few tasks that give me the biggest ROI? And when you look closely, it usually comes down to three things. The first is context switching. So your brain is constantly being pulled in different tasks, different conversations, and different decisions. And every time you switch, you're resetting your mental state. That has a cost, not obvious in the moment, but it accumulates. Instead of building momentum, you're constantly refocusing your attention, you're constantly restarting. The second is open loops. So unfinished tasks, decisions you haven't yet made, things you said you'd do but you haven't scheduled, they build up in your brain and cause cognitive load. They sit in the background of your mind and pull your attention. So even when you're working on something, part of you is elsewhere, and the dangerous thing is this can actually be subconscious. This can affect you without you even realizing it. And the third is what I call maintenance work versus compounding work. So most of your day is spent on things that reset every 24 hours. They matter, but they don't build anything. So you stay in motion without actually moving forward. And once you see these three things, the whole picture starts to change. You're not stuck because you're not working hard enough. You're stuck because your effort is being fragmented in these different directions, diluted, and applied to things that don't accumulate. Which means the solution is not more effort, it's better structure. So let's make this practical. The first shift is reducing unnecessary switching. This is probably the biggest drain in your focus and in your energy. So not eliminating it, that's pretty unrealistic, but reducing how often you force your brain to reset. Grouping similar tasks together means you can batch these tasks, focus on them, and clear them all out at the same time. The second is closing or capturing open loops. So everything that is not done needs to be either scheduled, delegated, done, or stored somewhere else. And the reason is if you don't do this, you're going to have constantly these open loops, and it's going to just sit in your brain, and your brain's going to hold on to this through the whole day or even longer. And the third is making sure that each day you go through actually includes one piece of work that compounds over time. Something that once done doesn't reset tomorrow, because that's what actually moves your position forward. So here's what most people do to overcomplicate things. They think they need a full system, a complete overhaul, or something complex. But once you understand the mechanism, it simplifies. You're not trying to optimize everything. You're just trying to stop the leaks. Because most of your productivity isn't from a lack of effort. It's from your energy. It's from your energy being drained in different areas, in ways that you didn't notice. And I've broken these down in more detail in more trainings before in different videos. But context switching is really probably the thing that affects your energy the most. And I've broken down these concepts in more detail in other trainings. Context switching and how it affects your energy, open loops, and how to clear them properly. Also how to structure your day. Also how to structure your brain so you can perform at a fundamentally higher level than most people around you. So if you want to go deeper, those are all there in different videos. You can watch them, but even just applying this at a basic level, this will change how your days feel. You've been lied to about productivity, not in an obvious way, but in a way that keeps you focused on these wrong variables. You were told to manage time when the real constraint is your attention. You were told to do more when the real issue is actually doing less and doing more focused things. And you were told to focus on discipline when you know that's not the real problem. The problem is just having a clear structure in your day. And once you correct those things, things start to move, not because you suddenly become better, but because you're finally working with a model that reflects how you really actually operate. And with that being said, I hope you found this training useful. If you did, you can subscribe to this channel, and yeah, let me know what you want on the next videos. If you want to work with me one-to-one or join the free community, the link is in the description, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Appreciate you.